All right, guys. Well, welcome back to season 4, episode 1 of Unlicensed. I cannot believe that we are doing all in-person episodes this season. I am so excited. I have been planning, working, grinding. We are here. We got amazing guests. We are at Atlanta Basement Studio in Atlanta. So any Atlanta podcasters who are looking to have an in-person studio that's affordable and has amazing production staff and everything, y'all better come over here and find out too. But I'm excited. If this is your first time tuning into Unlicensed, this is the podcast where women write in anonymously about any topics that they may have. So if that's relationships and dating, astrology, your boss is giving you a lot of shit at work and you need to know how to navigate that workplace anxiety. We literally cover everything from career and job and life and success to dating and relationships to woo-woo things. Anything you want to talk about, I promise you we got you covered. I am so excited for today's episode, guys. We are joined by Marsha. She has her degree in professional counseling. She's an author and now serves as a life coach. She's also a content creator. You better check her out. I'm going to allow her to plug all of her stuff at the end of the episode. She talks about healing, therapy, accountability, and other everyday issues that a lot of people, but especially women, kind of deal with for the day-to-day basis. So welcome, Marsha. I'm so excited to have you here. We're already talking so long. I'm like, we need to jump into the episode because we're going to be talking for like 3 hours in.
I know. I'm like, I'm hearing you. I'm like, oh my God, I did do those things. Wow. But I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited too. As you guys know, we like to jump into letting and getting to know our guests before jumping into the actual episode. So we're going to start with you. We're going to ask you some questions, get to know you so our guests feel comfortable. Before we talk about our first season 1 episode topic, I'm so pumped. But let's talk about you and your journey to getting your counseling degree, becoming a therapist. You talk a lot about, you're very vulnerable with your audience. I was checking and reading up on you before this episode, of course, and you're very open about your mental health struggles, anxiety, depression. I know there were some family things happening with your mom too. She went through chemo. What made you want to become a therapist in the first place? Because you seem so strong in the sense of you've been through all of this shit. You've healed and got into a place where you can help other people, but you had to start somewhere. So what did that look like for you?
Oh, you know, what just jumped out at me is just then you said you seem so strong. And I think to be strong, you have to first acknowledge your weakness and just be able to stand in that. Yep. And everything I've been through is a part of what made me feel incredibly weak, incredibly down, and incredibly just broken. And I just embraced my brokenness and decided I needed to have a space for myself. Definitely. But I think my journey first started when I was 8 years old. And I had a friend who had pervasive mental health issues because of some sexual trauma she experienced as a child and continued to experience well into adulthood. From 8 years old, I was there. I was there as her shoulder, and I loved how it felt to be there for people who were experiencing darkness. Wow. And it's interesting because, I mean, that's just how I saw myself as a friend throughout the years. But as a professional, I just decided that, you know what? You have to do what you love in this world. And I was trying to do the whole pre-med thing. I'm Haitian, okay? My mama, like most Caribbean and African parents, they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer because if you're not, you're going to be broke, or an engineer, right? If you're not doing something in STEM, you're poor. You're done. So I first, like after suffering through multiple attempts at chemistry, I just decided to do social work because I just had to focus on the fact that I like helping people. That's who I was when I was 8 with that friend, being her shoulder, hearing some very dark things no 8-year-old should ever have to hear, 100%. By the way. But I decided, okay, I wanted to help people. And then I did a job that I liked at the time where I worked at Florida State is where I went to school. I worked in the admissions office, but with minority students. And I was helping them. And then I realized, oh my God, I love working with, college age students or students going to college. So I just kept doing the higher ed thing. Then I was an advisor at Georgia State where, oh my God, I fell in love with working with kids on a one-on-one, with students on a one-on-one basis and helping them because I was an academic advisor, but what I realized was it wasn't really the academics that they were struggling with. It was their own personal world. Their personal relationships. Their personal relationships, their, things that they were going through that affected their academics. And then I remember I had a student, she came to me and she was like, oh my God, I know you're not a therapist, but like the counseling psychology office is packed. Like, I can't get a session. Can I talk to you? And I was like,
wow, hit for you. You're like, oh shit, I'm really good at this.
I mean, and the crazy thing is I always knew, but I was like, I'm just going to go the guidance counselor route because I get to still help people, but just without getting deep, right? Because I'm too sensitive. I'm going to cry in my sessions with my clients.
100%.
So that's what kept me from being a therapist until I had those students come in, go beyond the academic advising and do like bootleg counseling with them. And I was like, oh snap, I'm kind of good at this. And I didn't cry.
I like it.
And I empowered them and it worked. And then I decided, oh shit, okay, like we might go
this is something.
the therapy route. And then, 2020 was such a tumultuous time for our entire nation.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, there were a lot of advantages. I was afraid of going to grad school because I didn't want to take the GRE, to be honest. Me, not even like test taking and anxiety, but like me and math.
You said it, the chemistry part, they got all the math in it. Like, we cannot be doing this again.
Her and I don't gel. So once they removed the GRE testing requirement, I was like, oh, baby, I will write. Listen, I wrote a book before. I will write you, one hell of a personal statement. And then I got in, earned a 4.0.
Yes, amazing.
Became a therapist, quit therapy, decided that life coaching was a better route to do more of the empowerment side because sometimes you can get lost in the sauce in therapy and focus too much on how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
And not, what do you want to do about this?
Yes. Like, say it how it is, actually. I know you mentioned that you said one of the reasons that you moved away from therapy into life coaching was because of all the things that you can do in therapy versus all the things that you really can't do. Therapists are very limited in some ways. Like, you can't tell someone what to do in a session, even though you're like, girl, you're acting crazy. I want to tell you exactly what to do.
I did. I was directive.
Yes. And you said the biggest part of it that was a struggle was the self-disclosure. You couldn't really share about your own experiences.
I did.
As a therapist. So
I broke
tell us
rules,
about
babe.
that. Okay.
I broke all the rules. Okay. Listen, from when I was in my internship, I had my supervisor. He was on my ass. He made me the person I am today, though, but not fully because he also wanted me to just focus on, okay, you need to tap into their feelings. And I'd be like, look, I had look moments often. And I had clients of all, creeds, races, like, so it didn't matter who they were. Yeah. I was like, let's be for real. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
I knew that it was important for me to level with my client.
Yep.
Rapport is a big part of, building that trust with your client so that they can open up more. I always tell my clients, I can't heal you with the mask on. So take it off. I'll take mine off. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm a human. I'm not above anything that you're going through. Been there, done that. Wrote a book about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so I think I didn't care about the rules, but I always told my supervisor, then eventually the practice owners where I used to work, I always told them I feel like more of a life coach. And they kind of looked down on that. They were like, oh, you're too good for that. And I was like,
why do you feel that is? Is there like a certain narrative within that community that life coaching is just way down below because of certain degrees that you would have? Does it come back to the education point of it?
I think in this world where, this nation is founded on church and institutions of higher learning. Yeah. So there's a lot of prestige with, having certain degrees. I mean, I to be honest, I thought about getting a doctorate only because I like the little hat and because you will call me
the
doctor.
pictures will be cute on Instagram. Like,
Dr. Dolcé. But, but then I really, I think it's about the academic prestige that comes with, a degree that's been around for a while. This profession is dirt old,
Right.
But life coaching is different. It's not as regulated. If you want to become a life coach, I mean, you could just be a self-proclaimed life coach. Yeah. You can go through so many different accreditation programs. So because it's not as regulated, I think there's not as much respect. But there are results that come with life coaching. And I think it's because there's a level of accountability that comes with the support that you get that you don't necessarily get in therapy.
Wow, I love that. And I want to talk about the accountability piece too. Like you said, you're keeping it real with your clients. You're calling them out on their bullshit. And I think a lot of the time people might go to therapy and may not even think that they're a part of the problem of the issues that are happening in their life. How do you deal with someone in life coaching and when you were a therapist as well that doesn't want to take accountability? You feel like they're making excuses for their behavior. They're not taking any sort of actions towards changing their behavior and they like to stay in this victim complex. How can you deal with someone like that? I think that's good for my listeners because you might have a friend, someone you're dating, a family member who you're coming to and saying, hey, you are a part of this problem, but they don't want to hear it. So how do you deal with someone that doesn't want to hear it and change their ways and they don't think they're a part of the issue?
Okay, is this thing on?
Oh, the testing.
I don't.
Wow, okay.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. So I think something that a lot of my, TikTok family and my clients and even my ex clients always loved about me is that I'm real and I'm firm and I deliver that tough love. I tell you what you don't want to hear because you know what you don't want to hear is going to get you where you want to go.
Damn.
So I start with, okay, well, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I always tell my clients early on when we have that consultation call, when they're getting a vibe check. Yep. Some people are like sold off TikTok alone. They're like, I want to work with you.
Yeah, like that's the one. Yeah.
Which I'm always like, but I know, right? But the people that want that call, I always let them know I'm not working harder than you. Like I did a lot of work. I had to face the ugly, the good, the bad, and the ugly to get here. Because it's about the path to elevation. Yep. You don't elevate without facing that. If you're not ready to face it, I'm not gonna look at you by yourself.
Damn, I like that.
I'm not doing work you're not showing up to do. So if you're not ready to take accountability, you need to work with someone else because you're gonna be exactly where you are today, next year, and years after that. If you're not willing to see where you are wrong. Yeah. So I opened them up with, are you open to being wrong? Because if you're not, then you won't grow.
This isn't going to work then. Yeah.
No, so go find somebody else. Yes. I will not work harder than you. And I always tell my clients, I will fire you before you ever have to fire me. Trust. Because this work is so sacred to me. I start off by letting people know how sacred it is to me because growth is optional. Growth is optional. Like you'll decay by default, but growth is optional. Oh, I need to write that down.
Oh, really? It's time you.
I've never said it like that. But seriously, growth is optional, but decay is the default. And the reason for that is because time is a bad bitch. Okay, 60 seconds is going to go by. Yeah. So minutes are going by, hours are going by, days are going by, weeks are going by. Yeah. And I remember there was a sign I saw when I was in high school. It haunts me to this day. Yeah. It was a poster on the wall. It said, "Time is passing. Are you?"
Ooh.
I said,
ooh. That gives like shivers down my spine, literally.
How am I doing in algebra? I don't know.
2+2 as well. I need to remember that.
I don't know, but 4+4, she's 8, But like at the end of the day, it made me realize, oh shit, am I passing at life? So because time is always going, but you may not. Decay can be a default. Yes. But growth, you choose that. Yeah. So I love what people, and I'm like, look, I'm not babying you. I'm not beating around the bush, baby. I don't do none of that. Yep. You ready to work or not? Yep. So I handled that first quarter, honestly.
I like that because then it's not wasting your time or their time at the end of the day. If you just want a yes man, oh, you're doing great. When you see that they have so much more way to go, what's the point of spending any money and even becoming a part of the program that you do anyways? It makes no sense to me.
And in the sense that it does make is not money. All money is not good money. I don't want it. Keep your coin. Yeah. Keep your coin. I will collect it from someone who wants to do the work because again, I'm about the results.
Yes.
So,
yes, I love that. And I want to talk more about your approach too. I know you focus in on the mind, body, and spirit within everything. And I think within mental health, a lot of the time people might think that they just need to focus on their mind and whatever that looks like for them. But tell us a little more about the 3-step approach to that and the importance of valuing your body and spirit a part of that process too.
Yeah, it's so intertwined. I don't even see it as a 3-step approach because it's all one. Like I think it just flows. I like to think that it's like an art and science to healing. Yeah. And there are things that are very logical, like, hey, you want to lose weight because you see that affects your self-esteem. We know that. You taking this step, walking and eating like this is going to help. But then there's this other side that's like, hey, do you recognize you didn't feel good when you said yes to someone, someone's invitation when you really didn't want to go? Yeah. You need to honor what you felt. Yeah. And because some things can't be put into words. There are times I'll cut my client off and be like, hey, stop. What's happening right now? Because you're saying something, you're telling me how you feel, but there's so much that I feel energetically. And I'm like, what do you feel in your spirit right now? Like, what are you feeling? And then they're like, I'm overwhelmed. Wow. I'm like, well, you're over here telling me how you're going to do all these things, but your feelings trump that. So I just help people tap in. Yep. And I think the more we learn to slow down, and I'm still learning how to slow down my damn self because I got all the H, and the D all together. And I'm always having to learn to slow myself down. Yeah. And especially in this kind of era that we're in where oh my God, I get on my phone to show someone something, and next thing you know, I'm like, look at this reel. Look, what would I even pick up my phone for? We have to learn how to slow down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all about just honoring whatever needs to be presently honored in that moment, depending on what we're talking about.
Yes, I love that. And I like that you said it's like all intertwined. It's not like focus on this and that. It's like, no, all at the same time. I love that you mentioned with the client that was feeling overwhelmed. You're like, no, how are you, or trying to take on everything. You're like, how are you actually feeling? She's like,
Pause.
actually very overwhelmed. Okay, we need to take a step back.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself an empath? You're saying that you can kind of see and maybe even feel in those moments that these people are not really giving. And I think a lot of people are not very aware in those situations to be able to feel that presence from someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Would you consider yourself an empath? And how does that affect your work? Because that can be very draining, I'm sure, some days. If you're meeting with like back to back to back people and they're going through a lot of issues, how does that affect you and then your own mental health too?
You know, that's a question I got all the time. People are like, oh my God, I couldn't be a therapist. You probably take on so much. I was like, no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't take on anything. Like I don't absorb anything because I get so excited about the potential for that person. I get so excited that they're doing the work that I'm happy. Like,
Yeah,
with
I like
everything.
that.
People like worry about my mental health, and I'm like, oh, babes, I'm good because I know I'm good, and that means my clients are gonna be good. So it's really okay. Like there's only been one time I've ever been severely impacted. No, I'm not even gonna say severely. That was a reach. I would say like where I had an emotional reaction was when a client of mine took, the direction we were talking about, standing up for herself with her abusive partner, and she came back to session. She had a mask on, but everyone's wearing masks these days when they get sick. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, I'm across from her. I'm like, I know you did not come to this session sick.
Right.
And she takes her mask off and she has a bust lip.
Wow.
I broke down because I was like, she stood up for herself. Like we discussed that she needs to advocate for herself. Yeah. And that was the repercussion.
And then it turned to like physical abuse in that situation.
That's probably the only time I've ever been like, oh my God.
Shaken up.
Yeah, everything else, like we all are going to have a story. We all are going to have something painful that we have to get over.
Yeah.
I do think I am definitely empathic. I'm a spiritual person.
Got it.
So there are things you don't say that I'm going to feel in the energy. There are things I know sometimes before people even say them. Yeah, girl, you're going to have me for a whole nother podcast to talk about that.
Can we have an episode on spiritualism, please? I love it.
You have my number? Call me.
I really will. You think I'm kidding, please?
But I do think there was a time where I took on everyone's problem. That 8-year-old I told you about?
Yes.
Yeah, she thought everything was like, oh my God, for me to fix. And that's called egocentrism, where you believe everything happens because of you or that you have to do something about it. And like think about babies, right?
Yeah.
Mine, like they see the world that way because they don't understand how to take on other people's perspectives yet and other people's point of view. So even into adulthood, we're learning how to consider, okay, it's not all about us. What you're sharing with me, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm here to support you through that.
Yep.
But I journey with you, not for you.
Yeah.
So so I don't end up affected by what people go through because I can see beyond the pain that they're at. I see the potential. I see what positive ends they can get into if they can just like face it and hold space for it and nurture the brokenness. Like I said, nurture the pain to know that, okay, it doesn't end here. There's a comma.
I like that a lot. I think I can take that into my own life too, because I feel like I get maybe not as much anymore because I've been able to, go to therapy for the last few years and really focus on myself. But in college, when I just didn't know how to talk about my own emotions, so I had all these things just in me that just felt like demons truly. And then I had all these friends going through things, and then I'm taking on their problems. I would tend to shut down when they were going through things too. And I think for me moving forward, looking at the potential of where people can be and also setting boundaries of like, I'm not actually your therapist. So like, maybe you do need to get one. I'm here for you, but like, don't be calling me every day and like really getting into the midst of stuff because that's something that I can't take on myself. I think looking at the potential of something is super important. And the fact that you were helping this girl when you were like 8 years old, how did you know what to say to her? You're 8 years old too. You had 8 years of life and maybe even wise at that point of your time, but she's going through something super traumatic. Have you been someone that's always just known the words to say to people, even when you were younger as well? And like, I'm really interested to know about your vulnerability with that standpoint as well. Have you always been someone who's vulnerable and open, or is that something that you had to build in time when you went on your own healing journey?
I love today's topic. Can't wait to get into
Yes.
it because I know I can't say, like, I smiled because I'm like, it's nice to think that I always had the right answers for people.
Yeah.
I would like to say if I had an average, I was probably a B minus.
Okay.
Because I do think that sometimes I would be very toxically positive. I was trying not to, like, ruin it. But that's why I was like, yo, this, I was like, the fact that you reached out about this, I was like, first of all, who told her my business? Because I think a lot of it sometimes used to be toxically positive where I was just there. But I think sometimes people appreciated having positivity where they had nothing at all.
Right.
I do think I just wanted people to feel better.
Yeah.
And so I love bombed in the healthiest way my people back to wholeness. I'm like, no, I'm here for you. I love you. What do you need? Like I think because a lot of people were feeling a void of love, it worked.
Yeah.
But I recognize now where I wasn't always giving the best piece of advice, where I wasn't always giving the best support, where, I would try to, like, silver line shit for people. But I do think I grew up in a single parent home.
Yeah.
So my mom, I was like second in command. Like I was always like helping her.
Got it.
Not second in command like by age, because I did have a brother. I do have a brother. I like to act like he doesn't exist. He's like 10 years older, but like I was always like right there. Like, you need anything?
Yeah.
So like being like mommy's helper, like I was just wanting to help people. So yeah, that can be like really positive, but there are a lot of times I missed the mark and I didn't sit with people and what they were going through. But because I always wanted to help, because I was mission oriented to always be of service.
Yeah.
I always got better because I was willing to figure out how to be better. But then I also had to learn boundaries, because I was just talking about this yesterday. I was like, there was a point like a couple years ago, I was talking to someone who I can't even tell you how I know him. And I was on the phone with him for an hour about, I think, a breakup. And I was like, and this person doesn't hit me up to this day.
They don't check in on you. They're not asking about you. They're not. You're not calling them for.
I was a dump
help
site.
with everything. Yeah.
I was a dump site. He dumped. A lot of people will dump.
Yep.
And I had to realize, babes, you get paid for this. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm sorry, but I take.
You better book a session online. Okay.
Yeah, I take clients at this site, but like my friends don't do that to me. So so in short, I've always knew that I wanted to be there for people in their darkness and in their brokenness. And being there sometimes is better than not being there at all. So I did good, but I got better over time for sure.
Yeah, that's just like time, maturity, literally school, everything that you went through to actually know what to say other than look at the brighter side of things, because sometimes people don't want to hear about that.
Fuck no.
And that is a perfect segue into our advice for today, which is awesome. Well, you guys know it now. We today are talking about toxic positivity. I'm so excited for this topic. We'll get into what it is, how to spot it, how to move away from it if you're someone who's practicing this in your life. You're not even aware that you're actually doing it. But this person wrote in and they said, I have a friend whom I'm absolutely adore, but I feel like sometimes they try to be too positive. A lot has been going on in my life recently, including my own health issues and getting let go from my job. Things are really falling apart. I called this friend to vent because sometimes you just need that space to do so, but they responded with all this, look at life positively, focus on the bright side. You could be homeless, but you have your parents' support type of advice. Am I being irrational for wanting to express my feelings rather than hearing constant positivity? Is it okay to not be so positive all the time? How can I talk to my friend and let her know that while I appreciate her good intentions, it's okay for me not to be happy all the time? I love it. Let's start off with, because you're the one that knows all about this topic, and I'm actually really excited to learn about this as well, because I think I've been someone in the past to definitely be like, oh, it's all good, trying to be supportive, but looking back on it was not supportive at all for that. What is toxic positivity? We'll jump into times that you've seen it in your life and maybe have even practiced it yourself. But for someone tuning in today that's like, I was talking to my mom about it and she's like, what is that? And I'm like, girl, you definitely have done this to me before. So what is toxic positivity, and maybe some examples of it so people are aware of what it actually is too?
So I'm a fan of simplicity. Something that I was a little insecure before ever starting like on my TikTok journey about like, oh my God, am I really going to be a mental health TikToker when I don't have this degree? I don't really talk like this. I don't get into these terms about, oh, this is called attachment and avoidance. Like, so I'm going to be simple with this, okay?
Yes,
we're going to break it down, because positivity are all things good, encouraging, kindness, motivational, right? Toxic, not so great. like untimely and can have a negative like impact and
Untimely,
effect.
I like
and
that word for that.
yeah, and definitely something that's filled with detriment. It's something that's filled with just not going to end well. So, like we can just say poisonous.
Yeah.
Like poisonous, right?
Yeah.
So poisonous positivity.
Yeah.
So you're not serving a purpose. The purpose was to motivate, but you're poisoning. You're. It's like poisonous motivation. Poisonous a poisoned kindness.
Yes.
It's not gonna do what you intended for it to do, even if you have good intentions.
Yeah.
So it's just a very untimely positivity. It's a very detrimental kind of positivity that it's because of the untimely nature of it, because that person can't even resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not that what you're saying isn't true.
Yep.
But it's probably not timely.
You're not at that point where you can see that yet. You just need to sit in where you're at that point.
Yeah. So I'd say that it's a untimely positivity that can, and the reason why I'm using a word like poisonous is because it, instead of doing any good, it does more harm, because you can make a person feel bad that they don't feel better.
Exactly. That person feels shame all of a sudden that they're feeling a certain way, and they're like, well, should I be sad that I just lost my job? Maybe I should think about the brighter side of the light, or brighter side of everything, and it will work out. Even though right now you're like, I just lost my job. I need to pay rent. I'm stressed. Sit in that.
Yeah.
Sit in that emotion. Can you name a time? I love, like, let's get into your own personal experiences too, where a family member, friend, partner, someone has practiced this towards you in your life, and you're like, that is not what I need to hear right now. Obviously, you talk about your mental health struggles that you've had in the past, anxiety, depression, everything with your mom too, going through chemo, being a huge support system for her at that time. Was there a time during that period of your life that someone in your life was practicing that toxic positivity, and you're like, I do not need to fucking hear this right now. I need to sit in where I'm at. What did that look like for you?
So the darkest chapter, one of the darkest chapters of my life was my mom being diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And, I'm a spiritual person, not a religious person.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of your listeners that are Christian will relate to the toxic positive nature that a lot of Christians take.
Yep.
Because I remember someone called me and they were like, she's going to be healed.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You're fine. Like, everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed because at the time, as a Christian, I was actually someone that read the Bible, not all of it, but for herself.
Yeah.
And I had like a very intimate, connection with it, because it felt more real than what you got in church. And call me for that podcast too, girl.
Episode 3.
Right? But at the end of the day, I knew that it was not always going to be God's will for people to be healed. Everyone in the Bible did not get healed.
100%.
Everyone wasn't saved.
100%.
And people forget that.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off that in my deep despair, someone wanted me to project to a future time that was very unfucking known about her, what would be the result of her diagnosis and her treatment.
Yeah.
That they weren't even sure of, but they wanted, and people love to say, oh, you have to have faith. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Respectfully, fuck you, because right now I am feeling pain.
Yes.
And it's toxic positivity because you are looking past my pain to lunge me into a positive state that I'm not ready to be in. Ready?
Not even close to be.
Ready, timely. It wasn't timely for me to be in that space. You jumped ahead of me. It's detrimental, which is why I say it's poisonous.
Yes.
So it pissed me off, and honestly, it turned me away from Christianity and made me honor with what's within, which is why I say mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
That's divinity. And in my eyes, like being able to be present with what you feel.
Yep.
And also know that that's not just it, because that's why you need mind to know that, okay, beyond what you feel, you can see an end. So believe, you know what I mean?
Well,
so
100%.
I feel like that's what helped me kind of go into more spirituality, because it was me connecting with my feelings. So I hated that there were people that were like, have faith, she's gonna be healed. Now, they might be like, well, joke's on you, because, she is healed. Her cancer did end up going into remission. Yeah. But I don't, even if someone said, see, I told you, I'd be like, yeah, also motherfuck you, and you don't have my new number.
Do you know when I was so down low at that point still?
You missed the mark.
Yeah, you're done. No, that would piss me the fuck off. I didn't even think about it from the religious standpoint. I was going to ask you about the spiritual community and toxic positivity, because you see it all the time. And going through these awful things, and they're like, well, the universe wanted this to happen. The universe wanted this to happen. Everything's working out for me. And I'm like, girl, you just lost your job. Are you actually okay though? It's okay to sit in this moment and say, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not feeling good. Let's talk about the spiritual community and toxic positivity and what that may look like more, because I feel like that's very harmful. There's so many bad things that can come from that.
Yeah.
And I think so many people think that this is meant for me. This is meant for me. And I'm like, well, some things really suck, even though it's happening to you. And it makes me sad that people feel like there's this universal spirit or whatever they believe in at that time being like, this is meant for you. And yes, most people can grow stronger from harder experiences.
Yeah.
We've all been through shit, but still, it's just, I'm kind of looking at it like,
I want to chime in on that
Please,
because I have another example, right?
Yes.
And I can get emotional talking and thinking about it, so bear with me.
I got you.
I got hit by a car 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
In April, in downtown Atlanta, crossing the street, I felt so good about myself.
Yeah.
And I was like so excited that I was like just continuing to elevate on my journey. And I was crossing the street. I had the right of way. And so the little white walking man on the screen told me to go.
Yep.
Like everything said go. And then I'm walking and then a car comes, stops, which makes me feel even safer. I'm like 45% of the way through and then hits me. Of course, the person's at fault. Of course, there's a check that ends up coming, right? But that was the incident that lunged me into a deeper understanding of anxiety and PTSD, because it goes beyond feeling safe crossing the street.
Yeah.
I did not feel safe in cars as a my Uber. Like, I remember one time.
Oh my God, I would be traumatized to get near any car, let alone in a car. Yeah.
Yeah. So we took a flight to Philly, me and my girls, and on the flight, I panic attack.
Oh my God.
Because now every time your brain wants to keep you safe. I love to educate my clients on that.
Yeah.
So anxiety is your brain trying to keep you as safe as possible and keep you in the same like spot, because it's like, we know this spot, like stay here.
Yeah.
So because my brain feels like, oh my God, I failed you. I thought we were safe. We saw the little walking white man on the screen say go.
Yeah.
The car stopped. Everything said you were fine.
Yeah.
And then you were not. I fucked up. Now we have to look at everything.
We're doing
like,
extra overtime now.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So now you see that engine, which I don't even know if I was looking at an engine when I was looking out the window. Oh, it was going to fail. And I literally would see the plane crashing.
Oh my God.
And so I went through so much trying to, get over that, and then get off the plane, see my homegirls, and I'm talking to them about how difficult that was for me. We get in an Uber, and we're on a bridge.
Yeah. Oh my
and
God. No, fuck that. No.
Well,
I would have full panic attack at that point.
I did. Now I'm seeing the car fall off the bridge, and we're all dying over and over again while we're on this damn bridge.
Yeah.
And so I'm leaning into my best friend's like arm. She's holding me.
Yeah.
And, she didn't tell me get over it. Like she just held that space. That's positivity.
Yes, I love
without
that.
being toxic, right?
I love that.
But, this same friend ended up saying later, isn't it a blessing though? Like look at the blessing that came out of you getting hit later, after I got, like, let's just say, I can't even remember how much I got because the money gone, child. The money
we
gone.
just went that a little quick.
Okay. But she was like, see, there was a blessing that came out of it. And I was like, no. Even with being 20K richer, 30K richer, however much it goddamn was, I could have gone without that happening in my life.
100%.
Right?
And make that money at any point anyways.
Now, let's talk about it on a logistical, like logic-based kind of thing.
Yeah.
Did I not get money? Yes.
Yeah.
Did that money bless me in ways? Yes. So on a very logical level, is what she's saying making sense? Yes. Same with the reader. Like, yes, her friend pointed out other positive things that were happening. It's just not timely, because you still have to empathize with what that person's still experiencing.
Yes.
I was still experiencing anxiety in a car, walking across the street, on a plane, on a boat, on a private jet. Just speaking that into existence. I'm not on a private jet yet.
Get us on our yacht and private jet immediately. Yes.
Yeah, and it's still something that I was struggling with a year and a half afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But also, what I will say is that I don't also blame the spiritual hippie woo-woo, because I am very hippie woo-woo.
Yeah.
I don't blame those people who say what they say, because there is a divine intelligence that is taking place. And this is something that happened this year. Now, this is 2 years after it happened. I'm getting my steps in, and I'm like talking about like why things happen, because I always want to believe everything happens for our greater good. If you're Christian, you know that it says that all things work together for the good of those who love him. It's spiritual people believe that everything happens in divine timing. Everything has a reason, right? I was like, what the fuck was the reason for me getting hit by a car? Yo no sé. Yo no comprende. Okay, I don't get it. And then I thought about it, and it's like an instant download came where, okay, it was a couple of us. It was like a group of like 4 or 5 of us, right?
Yeah.
We walked one girl to her car.
Okay.
And then my best friend was going to get in an Uber. And as me and my roommate at the time were going to our car,
Yeah.
I was like, no, girl, I'll take you home. I don't mind. And she
Yeah.
was like, no, are you sure? So it was a little bit of a back and forth there. But then she eventually agreed to come with me, right?
Yeah.
And then the 3 of us, were walking to my car so that I can take her home.
Oh my
Then I
gosh.
get hit. I realized, I said, wait a minute. I got hit, but thank God. Nothing was broken. I mean, from time to time, I still feel a soreness near my piriformis, which is I call it the booty bone. It's not really the booty bone, but it's like that part of your spine.
Okay.
I still feel some soreness there, but thank God nothing was broken.
Yeah.
You know, thank God, like I don't have any permanent damage or nothing like, you know, really like life altering.
Yeah.
It fucking sucked when it happened, right?
Yeah.
It came and it passed. I did get to see some beauty from that situation because one of my best friends, the way she cared for me when I was in that state, the way she would come over and open my door, and the way she catered to me, the way I was like loved on.
Yep.
Without that experience, there's a level of love you can't, without darkness, there's a level of light you can't see. That's just the truth.
Especially from other people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Outside in the daytime, you cannot, no one's talking about the stars right now.
Yeah.
Because it's bright.
Yeah.
But at night, everyone's like, oh my God, let's go stargazing.
Oh,
So
I
it's like
that.
there was a level of love I could not have seen from my friends without that experience.
Wow.
Not saying I want that experience, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I landed on that day. I'm taking the steps. I said, oh shit.
Yeah.
When I think about it, my best friend was going to take an Uber. What if she died in a car crash in that Uber? What if when we all got in the car, we all died, the 3 of us, 3 deaths in the drive that, you know, we make. What if, you know, I would have been the sole survivor? They both die. I'm living with this. So many different things could have happened right now. I know someone might be listening and be like, okay, yeah, but what if you all made it safely to your destinations? Because what the fuck, right?
Right.
To you, I say true, right? Because that also is a possibility.
Yeah.
But as soon as I said it, I looked and I saw 777 or 222, one of those numbers. And I was like,
we had a whole episode on angel numbers last year too.
I love me some angel numbers.
Gosh,
I'm tapped in. And then in that moment, I was like, you know what? I have decided, and I told my clients, what I need you to believe is that everything is working for your good, and that everything you deserve and desire, you will have an experience.
Yes.
And you might not always see the reason why something happened, but I know that without getting hit by that car, I could not have the deeper understanding of PTSD and anxiety the way I do now.
Yes.
And now have methods to help my clients trample over those things. I know that like at the end of the day, there's a level of love I got to experience. I know that at the end of the day, it's a part of my story. It's a scar that you see that didn't kill me. And I get to be like, well, I'm definitely stronger because I survived that. Yeah. Like everyone needs to get over it. Life is life. Yeah. Life be life is a very popular phrase that people love to use. But people are like, oh my God, life is so horrible. Life is first of fucking all, you were never promised paradise. Sorry, but apparently
that is so true.
Where the fuck were you told things were going to be perfect? I just hate that life is so unfair. Where the fuck were you promised it was going to be fair? It's about adjusting and adapting once the bad shit happens.
Yeah, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's inevitable, motherfuckers. So like, get a grip.
Yes.
Like this is why I don't play a violin. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, no, we're all going to have some shitty shit happen. Yeah. We need to make sure we have the right people around us. Yeah. We need to make sure that they're emotionally intelligent to know when to, know, say the things. Yes. Because, back to your reader, she pointed out the blessings.
Yes.
And ignored the stressing.
Exactly.
She ignored the distress to point out where her friend is blessed. And it's so crazy? The answer was there. She said the answer. She knows the answer. Am I irrational? It's funny that we always question ourselves. No, you feel what you feel.
You know how you're feeling in that moment when she was saying those things to you. And you're like, I just need you to sit in this moment with me, girl. Yeah. I don't need any brighter side. I just need you to sit with me in this moment. Like your friend did for you in that situation.
Yeah. Her friend has good intentions, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, no one understands that they're being toxic, toxically positive. They want their friend to feel better. Yeah. And that's the thing. In this world, we rush to feel better, not realizing you do not feel better until you sit with the shit.
100%.
Fucking mourn.
You have to. Okay, so let's talk about that too, because I've been someone at a place in my life that in college specifically, severely depressed, really anxious, distracted myself from all of those feelings, which is a part of like toxic positivity. Because I'm like, I'm not feeling this way. It's fine. Let me sleep. Let me keep going about my day. Let me drink, go out with my friends, keep it going. And I know for me, sitting with my emotions was very uncomfortable because I grew up in a family that we pretended that we talked about our emotions, but we really did not. Like my mom would shut down completely. My dad would shut down completely. So I saw this for 18 years of my life before I went off to school. Now I know that I cannot do that or I will be severely in a point in my life in mental health space that's not good. Why do you feel like a lot of people feel so uncomfortable sitting in those emotions? And even sitting in other people's uncomfortable emotions. I feel like the intent behind people practicing toxic positivity is to make you feel better, is to offer support in that time. But also it's a little bit of maybe that person doesn't want to sit in your stress, your anxiety, your depression. Why do you feel like so many people struggle sitting in that uncomfortable space? But you gotta face the bad shit so you can feel the good shit. Like you said with the stars, and you gotta sit in the darkness to see the light afterwards. Why is it so uncomfortable for people to sit in that darkness?
It's foreign. Again, your brain doesn't like doing anything new. It really doesn't really want to. So it's going to keep you safe by keeping you in your pattern. And if your pattern, which was first established by home, is we don't talk about it. Hey, we don't do this. What are you doing?
What's going on here?
So, babes, you're like distressed right now. Weird. I don't know what to do with that. Even when I'm distressed, we don't do that. Want to go drink? You want to go hit this real quick? You want to go like, let's get over that guy, get under another girl. No, because they don't do it themselves. If we grew up in the kind of households where our parents really like took the time to talk to us, listen to us, but then also give us space to feel and be like, hey, it's okay that you're not okay right now. No, everything, especially for a lot of, people of color and minorities, there's so much trauma that we had to, circumvent and get over when it comes to everything we experienced with slavery, that there was no time to talk about feelings. Everything was survival, So because there's always this agenda to like, hey, we got to keep it pushing. We push without sitting. And because we don't sit, we just push until we are run ragged to a point of, oh, fuck, now I have to sit. Eventually, your body will sit your ass down.
Oh, 100%. And that's when you see so many people just shutting down completely.
Exactly. But it's uncomfortable because people don't do it themselves and they never had that modeled for them. If my friends model for me like a space where I'm allowed to be sad and I meet someone and they're like, oh, girl, you need to get over it. I'll be like, oh, you're not the friend for me. It'll be easier for us to see who's not for us because of what's been modeled for us. But if that's never been modeled, I'm pretty sure that girl, like when she's going through stuff, she's used to getting that same advice. So she didn't think she did anything wrong telling her friend, oh, but look at the bright side. This is a nation that thrives on looking at the bright side and moving on fast. We're too fast-paced.
Which doesn't work for that. And you're probably right. This person in the situation, again, the intent may have gone through bad shit themselves, and everybody else in their life is, oh, you got this, girl, keep going. How can you tell a friend? Because I've definitely been in situations where you might call a friend and you're having a bad day. Maybe you got let go from your job. Maybe you're dating a guy and he's shitty. We've all been through it all. How can you tell a friend, girl, I don't really need to hear your advice or opinion right now. I just need to really vent. Can you just be as direct to say it as that?
If they're your friend, you should. I will say, like, some people will take it personally because people want to feel good about their ability to improve someone's situation. So they might be like, oh my God, I was just trying to help. And it's like, hey, I think there's a way you deliver it, obviously. I think a good thing to do is to start off by saying, for the record, I just want a space to vent and for you to just listen. I don't really need your advice. I don't want you to say like cheer up. I just want to be able to tell you how I'm feeling.
100%.
And it's okay if you don't know what to do with that. I think that gives people permission to just be like, oh, she just wants me to sit.
I just got to be here.
Yeah, but a lot of people are so uncomfortable with that because they feel like a failure if they can't contribute to things getting better. And they don't even know, oh shit, I didn't know that you feel better that I just sat with you. So I think if people saw the value in sitting, and if we did a good job of saying, hey, I just want you to listen, that will actually make me feel really good, then people will be like, I can sit. Because all we want, like, we're still like kids to the point where it's like, I can do that. And so if we tell them, hey, I just want you to sit.
That's sweet, actually.
Yeah, I hope people actually watch this on video because my facial expressions are really...
Oh, they will be, don't worry.
But like, like if they learn that, oh, that's all you need. Like my best friend, I just got off the phone with her. I know her well enough now to know that she said to me, she was like, honestly, I love you and I know you have good intentions. Start with that. The sandwich effect. I love you. I know you have good intentions, right?
Don't be saying that shit though.
Then the middle part, what would really help is if you do this where you give me advice and you tell me to cheer up and that's not really helpful.
Yeah.
I know you're being supportive and I just know that you mean well. So I thank you so much.
Yes.
What would really help is this.
Yeah.
Sandwich that bitch up.
Yeah.
Throw it at them.
You're right. Because if that's your real friend, they're going to do whatever they need in that situation so that you feel supported, not so that they can get their 2 cents in and feel like they're a part of it. How does the people pleasing then come into that? Because you mentioned a lot of people may not feel fulfilled if they feel like they're not helping with the problem. And a lot of the time people feel like voicing their own opinions about things because they're right and they have that, egocentric mindset of it all. Think that they're right. How does the people pleasing and, I have to tell them to make them feel better and do this come into the play? Is toxic positivity usually associated with people pleasing? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make your friend feel better, which makes you feel better and you feel like you're pleasing them and helping them in this situation. How are those two concepts related?
I mean, I think if they're not cousins, they are definitely like
they're twins.
They're in the family tree. That's a really good question because I do think sometimes people aren't even thinking that they don't necessarily care to please the other person.
Yeah.
Some people are just very like, hey, life.
Yeah.
We move on. And that's toxic positivity too. They're not necessarily trying to please you.
Yeah.
They're trying to get you to get over it.
Yep.
Some people can be a little bit more calloused in that way without caring about whether or not that made you happy or not.
Yeah.
So I don't think someone has to be a people pleaser to be toxically positive, but I do think a lot of people pleasers naturally will be toxically positive.
Yeah.
So
because it's what they're kind of do their entire life. As a fellow people pleaser still dealing with it, that's like all I did growing up. I'm like, it'll all be good. It'll be good.
Yeah.
No, it won't. Actually, maybe in this moment it won't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think people, again, they mean well and they're like, I just want to help. I just, whatever. And it's because they want to please the people around them. But again, it's about having the emotional maturity to know that what if what I'm doing doesn't please them? Again, you will grow if you're open to being wrong.
Yes.
If you can receive that you might be wrong about what you're saying, then, and then you'll find a better way to please. Because at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing to care about people around you being in a pleasant state. So people pleasing is honestly toxic, but there's a non-toxic side of that where you just want things to be agreeable.
The best for people.
Yeah, and you want, because the best for people is the best for you because hippie woo-woo, we're all part of the collective.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, though, it's about realizing this has nothing to do with me and I need to just figure out what does this person need. I think I know what they need, but what the fuck do I know?
Yeah.
I've lived my life. I don't know what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where empathy, comes in with feeling for that person and just being on the same level.
Yeah.
Like if people have not seen Brene Brown's, it's like a less than 3-minute video on empathy. She talks about how it's about taking on that person's feelings. It's like this friend missed the mark because she didn't sit with her friend in what she was currently feeling. And she took her down, she just took her across the timeline sooner than she was ready to be, there. Like, well, at least you have this. No, okay, here's a great example. This is such a good example for people to understand how detrimental it is to be toxically positive.
Yeah.
If I shot you in your left shoulder.
Yeah. Boom. Yes.
I love that.
Got it.
She said boom. Yeah, if I shot you in your left shoulder, that's like me saying, oh my God, but you have a right shoulder.
Oh.
And if that friend, if she said that back to that friend would be like,
bitch, you just shot me in the left shoulder.
But you have 5 fingers on that one hand still.
Yeah.
You still have your hair. You're still really cute. You still got ass, girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you still, like, dress really well. Bitch, I got shot
in my shoulder. Yes.
And I think when people hear that example, they're like, ooh.
That is a good way of saying that. I like that a lot.
I'm glad I remembered.
I like that a lot.
Because I told you I got the A, D, H, and the D package, and I be forgetting shit. But yeah, I think when people realize that, they'll realize that you can be a better, pleasant person around people.
Yeah.
That's a healthy way of saying people pleaser.
Yes.
You can be a healthier people pleaser by recognizing what would please that person is to tend to the thing that's hitting them now.
Yes.
So I think a good way to stay like forward thinking and never miss the mark is the now.
Yeah.
What is happening right now with this person?
Yeah.
This person is feeling it really bad and I just want to be there for them.
Yep.
And ask them, hey, what do you need?
Yes. People don't do that, including myself. What do you need in this moment?
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to get ahead of thinking people want your 2 cents when they don't.
Yeah.
Hey, like, what do you need right now? Are you looking for advice, or do you just want a space?
Yeah.
And this is why I tell people, before you crash out because you're getting terrible advice, how about you just echo everything you're feeling on a voice note?
Yeah.
As long as you want to have it go as hard as you want to, because
that.
no one's going to interrupt you with, well, you should.
Let me finish my story. I'm only 5 minutes in, and it's a 29-minute story. Let me finish up.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's such a good advice that you just said, like taking a step back, figuring out what that person actually needs and what doesn't work for you in that situation. Because what works for me is not going to work for everybody else. We're talking a lot about good intent, which is so important because we like to think that a lot of people in our life have good intentions. But let's talk about someone who might be practicing toxic positivity, maybe with not necessarily the best intent. Maybe that stems back to gaslighting, I think, even in the sense, you know, someone in that moment making you feel like how you're feeling isn't really how you're feeling. You're questioning the narrative of how you're feeling and everything too. Do you feel like people, and especially toxic people, might practice toxic positivity for their own benefit? Even if you're really stressed about something, they're like, I don't really want to deal with this shit right now. You're going to be good, girl. You're going to be good. You're fine. Even though that person's struggling. Have you ever had a situation where you felt like someone in your life, or have you ever just seen anybody ever practicing toxic positivity, maybe with not the best intentions? Because I have great friends. I have great family. My mom specifically is someone that, but when I would come to her and say, hey, I'm feeling really depressed, she would always respond with, oh, is it your period? You're going to be fine. You got to pray, things like that. Good intentions, not what I needed at the time, mama, but good intentions. Right. But I've also dated men, even in situations where I've been really upset about something. They're like, oh, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Making me feel like I'm so stupid in those moments, kind of the gaslighty part of it. Have you ever experienced that? And what do you think about maybe bad intentions behind it as well?
That's an interesting version of toxic positivity, because I will say the majority of people that do it have good intentions.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think at heart, people typically want to see the good. Yeah. Manipulative people, men and women alike, I think when it's manipulation, it's just pure manipulation. Okay. And people have to know themselves to be able to know that, okay, what you're saying to me right now, just it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that feeling within yourself, mind, body, and soul, to know that, okay, So I don't even know, that's a really good question, because I don't even know that they have bad intentions with what they're saying. Okay. Because I think the intention, even in, like, let's say with the example of the guy gaslighting you and being like, you're fine, it's not that big of a deal, right? Let's say with that example. I mean, that's like, it's really more dismissive than toxically positive, because a person can't just be like, you have all this going on, right? The intent is still to end the conversation, to end the feud. So I think even there's still some good intent.
That's a good point.
I mean, sometimes it could be to take off the pressure from them if they did something bad.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are scenarios where someone can be toxically positive, be like, well, I pay all the bills in this house. Why would you, like, you got a good man.
Yeah.
And so that could be a form of toxic positivity. Definitely. It's just not the common, when people think of toxic positivity, they're thinking about the people that are like, oh, you're going to be fine. You're going to make it through it. Faith, all this other stuff. And that's way more gaslighting, but it can be a subset of it for sure.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think with toxic positivity, it typically is like the intent behind it is really good. And so for people moving forward, how can someone spot the difference between someone being encouraging, or even to yourself, like practicing self-affirming talk, versus someone who's practicing toxic positivity? Does it just come back to what you were saying at the beginning of like the untimeliness of it, and not, again, sitting in that space? How can you tell the difference between someone being encouraging and then practicing toxic positivity? Because I feel like that's something I struggle with. I'm very much you got this, girl, you can be encouraging. And I know now to sit in the space of where my friends are at. I was on FaceTime with my friend yesterday, and she's going through it right now. And so I know in that moment, she didn't need me being like, everything's going to work out, girl, you got this. I need to be like, that fucking sucks. I'm sorry. What do you need? Let's talk about it. Let me ask questions so you can see how you're feeling in that situation. And in that way, I've kind of learned. But in the past, I would have just been like, it's okay, girl. Like, I can send you some options for jobs. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be good. How can you tell the difference between an encouraging person versus someone who's just been toxic and positive?
Yeah, I think balance is the word. There has to be a balance of the support, and the support of, like, the positive thing that we expect. Like, okay, it's going to work out, and the support of what you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
I think the present needs support and the future needs support.
Yeah.
So, for example, you know, you can talk to someone about like with your friend, right? You can tell her like, yo, that sucks. Like, girl, I can't imagine what that feels like.
Yeah.
You know, times can be so rough. Like, how are you feeling? Like, that's support, right? And be like, hey, come with the encouragement. I know you too. Like, I know, like, and then you can remind a person of their resume, and it helps them know that, like, I've seen you go through some really dark things.
Yeah.
I know that this is something you will eventually get through, but just know I'm here along the way.
Yeah.
So it's about finding a way to support in the present. You can support in the present.
Yeah.
You want to kind of encourage them and remind them, like, the future, the things that we want, it's going to happen because of your past resume.
Yes.
And I'm going to be there across that journey. So I think a balance across the timeline would really help.
I love that.
And I think that's how you know. Because if someone's just on there like, everything's great, and it's like,
scared,
everything's great where?
Right.
Not right now.
Right. It's not in my dimension. I don't see it.
So I think if people know how to do that and stick with the person at the now, they'll be fine.
I love that. Well, okay, last words of advice. Last words of advice for this person. What do you want to say to this girl who's dealing with her friend that is practicing this? Last words of advice for them too.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so much room for your friendship to blossom if you are willing to have these ugly conversations.
I love that.
Again, we cannot grow if we're not willing to be wrong. And I think sometimes we have to hold our friends accountable by having these conversations with love. Being like, hey, I love you and I know you love me. I just want to like offer a suggestion. I think like we need to get better at holding space, but your friendship can get better with that conversation, or you might be able to reveal that this is not the person for you.
Yeah, because how they respond says a lot then in that case.
The thing too.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Marsha. This was awesome. This is like the best season opener ever. I had so much fun with you, and I will be contacting you again because you said 90 things that I wanted to cover this season, so you will be on it too. But please plug everything, your TikTok content, classes, how people can find you. Plug everything so people can talk to you more and get to know everything that you do. That's amazing.
Yeah. So on TikTok, I am Dolcé, DOLCE_Vents, VENTS, because I'm on there sometimes talking about my own stuff while I'm getting you through your stuff. I also have a YouTube that's also the same name. Everything is in the link in bio on the TikTok. I will have some groups that are virtual, so it doesn't matter if you're in Atlanta or anywhere in the world, you'll be able to join. You could also hit me up for a one-on-one session. That option will be available to you too. It'll all be in the link in bio on my TikTok, so catch me there.
I love it. You guys know where to find her, and I had so much fun with you today. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. If you guys have any other things that you need advice on for this season, head to my Google form or my website, www.unlicenssedpodcast.com. We will get everything answered for you. And of course, if you guys want to check us out on our video content, we have our YouTube channel at Licensed Advice, and then our TikTok and Instagram at Unlicensed Advice. But I love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.